All right, we're recording.
Thank you very much. So good morning. This is today I'm calling the meeting to order for the West Haven Subcommittee of the MARB. It is Tuesday, December the 15th, and I just want to make this meeting is being recorded. All guests that are here, could you please put your phone on mute so that this way we don't have a distraction of phones, and members, please be aware of your background so that we don't get background noise within this meeting. I'm Kimberly Kennison, and I am the designee for Secretary McCaw. With me today is Christine Shaw, and she's the designee for Treasurer Wooden. And the first item on our agenda, we do have a quorum. The first item on our agenda today is the approval of the minutes of November the 17th. If I could get a motion.
So moved, Bob White.
Thank you, Bob.
Second, Tom Hamilton.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please, Julian? And members, please tell us what your vote is, whether you are approve, yay, opposed, or abstain.
All right, Mr. White,
Yay.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Felsigno,
Aye.
Ms. Shaw,
Aye.
Ms. Kennison.
Aye.
And is Patrick Egan on the line? Okay, that's everybody.
All right, the minutes have been approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is an update from the Board of Education on the health insurance analysis. And I know that some great extensive work has occurred in this area with Mike Malone and Julian as definitely the superintendent. And I want to thank everybody for your hard work on all of this. And it sounds to me like, you know, a year later, I know we've had these discussions in the past, but sounds like we're going to have a good report today. So, Michael, could you please get us started today?
Yeah, thank you and good morning. And I'm going to echo what you said earlier. Julian was an immense help to me. He broke down my broken English of 9 pages and simplified it into 2 pages of English. So hopefully this summarizes things pretty well, and I think it does. And then the superintendent and Matt have been extremely helpful to me. Because every time I turned around, it seemed like I needed additional information. So I think that this is relatively comprehensive and hopefully will give you a sense of where we are at this moment in time. And you'll also see that we still have some work to do. I thought if it was okay, Kim, I'd take 30 seconds and just remind everyone about the background here. We got involved about 1.5 years ago with MARB to try to move all of the Anthem coverages to the partnership plan. We were successful with the city side last year. On January 1st. 5 of the 6 unions moved to the partnership plan. There were 4 city unions, there was the sewer fund union, and then the only union that didn't move was the fire union, and that was simply because they were in the health savings account with Anthem, and for them to move mid-year would have been really detrimental to them as far as the deductibles that they had met and so on. And as the memo says here, we estimated that we saved about $625,000 with that transition to those 5 bargaining units. But the other thing that was an added benefit is the idea of moving to the partnership plan apparently scared off a number of employees, and somewhere between 18 and 24 people who had coverage under Anthem chose to get waivers and to not get coverage through the city, and that probably generated another $250,000 in total unanticipated savings. So that was, and it's pretty much held as far as I can tell by looking at the most recent numbers. So it was a successful effort, and fortunately it went pretty smoothly, and there wasn't a lot of fallout. And so with that, I got reacquainted, if you will, with the superintendent this year, because I spent a lot of time with him last year just going over these numbers preliminarily. And he had a study of his own done by Fiscal, and we started talking about 3 months ago. and he indicated an interest in pursuing this very vigorously and very aggressively, and seriously considering moving his employees. And so what we did, we being the superintendent and Matt, and then I sat down with Julian, is we pretty much tried to pull together the information in a way that made the most sense. Generally, the way that Anthem develops these numbers is they aggregate the three groups that we have to segregate. So what we do is we take the numbers that Anthem gives us, and then we have to break out the active employees as one group because they're rated separately from the pre-65 retirees, who are rated separately from the post-65 retirees. So that's why you see three different amounts for the cost of the plans and the costs of the transitions, because the rates are broken up by active, pre-65, and post-65. And if you look at the middle of the first page of the handout, you'll see what the superintendent has right now in terms of people involved in health coverage through the Board of Education. The active employees covered represents about 603 lives, and then the pre-65 and post-65 represent about 70 people. These are the people that are in Anthem. These are the people that we're talking about today. The city also and the Board of Ed extends coverage to retirees from earlier years through a Medicare plan that is managed with a third-party administrator called Zenith. And so you could see there that there's another 226 retirees who are former Board of Education employees who are separate and apart from the Anthem coverage. That is an insured plan. It's a Medicare plan. So all we've been focusing on, both on the city side and on the Board of Ed side, is the Anthem actives and the Anthem retirees, because those are the self-insured plans. And I failed to mention that the city still has a couple of Anthem self-insured retiree plans too. There's a pre-65 and a post-65, which makes up, maybe about 110 employees. And then separate and apart from that, the city, similar to the Board of Education, also has, I think, about 130 employees or former employees who are in the Zenith plan, who are also in Medicare coverage. Again, everything that we've been doing and will continue to do, though, is focusing exclusively on the Anthem self-insured portion of this. And then separate and apart from that, we hope to move on to Zenith. But to bring that into the fold now is too complicated because of the inconsistencies and the other legal issues with labor contracts and so on. So what we're going to be talking about today are just the Anthem folks that Board of Ed extends coverage to, and that's the 603 actives and the 70s that are both pre-65 and post-65. And then if you look at the bottom of page 1 of the summary that we did, this is just a quick synopsis of what the estimated savings or cost would be if we were to move these Board of Education employees from the Anthem coverage to the partnership coverage. Now understand, these are the rates that are currently in effect for fiscal 2021. We haven't seen the rates for next fiscal year yet, so this is all based on just current data. And you can see that for the active Board of Ed employees, it would be a savings of about $1,367,000. And for the retirees who are pre-65 and the post-65 non-Medicare eligible, you'd see that the cost is about $259,000. So overall, it looks like at this juncture, it would be a savings of about $1.1 million if both the active and the retirees were to move to the partnership plan. The one thing that I did want to mention is these are net numbers. You'll see that when we get to the detail page. And the other thing that I wanted to also mention, which I think Neil mentioned earlier, is There's a difference between moving active employees and moving retired employees in terms of the labor contracts and some of the conditions associated with them and so on. And it's not quite as easy to move the retirees as it is to move the actives, but I'll let Neil speak to that. And also, I know Floyd Dugas, the Board of Ed attorney and labor attorney, is on the phone as well. So if you look at the top of page 2, basically what it does is it restates the situation that the Board of Ed is in right now. It says, similar to the situation with city retirees, the impact of moving the BOE retirees to the partnership is far less certain, and that's because of the fact that it's going to cost some money to move them, and it can cost significantly more depending upon how we determine their contributions to the plan, which I'll get to in a minute. And so you could see that at this moment in time, one of the options that Neil obviously wants to look at is maybe keeping the retirees, the Board of Education Anthem self-insured retirees with the Anthem self-insured plan. But in order to do a cost comparison, Anthem has got to provide us with the rates for this group if they were to maintain the self-insured status. And included in this group of retirees is the city retirees who are also covered under Anthem. And what we're hoping to get within the next couple of weeks, and I know Seth Levine, our benefits coordinator, is also on the line, and he's been working on this, is to get from Anthem what our rates would be if the Board of Ed retirees, Anthem retirees, and the city retirees were to stay on that Anthem plan. Now, Seth can speak for himself, obviously, but he did forewarn us that because of the fact that the group shrinks and you are now basically developing a higher risk group and losing 600 people who are much younger and less at risk for medical issues, that by aggregating a group of close to 65 retirees and people who are post-65 retirees, you raise the risk, and obviously the rates go up accordingly. So before I think any final decision could be made on the retirees, obviously we would want to see, but it's the superintendent's call, obviously, but I think he'd want to see the rates that Anthem comes back with. So that's where we are in terms of the only outstanding issue we have with the numbers. I know that when I talked to Neil, he was talking about possibly trying to transition by July 1st. He's got his ducks in a row here, so he's probably well ahead of where the city was at the same point in this process when the city moved. So I know that he's well positioned, and he just needs a little bit of guidance from his labor attorney, and also some information from Anthem as to what they're going to offer as a replacement if he takes the teachers out of Anthem but leaves the retirees there. The other elephant in the room, of course, is at the almost the bottom of the second page, and it's the incurred but not reported portion of what would be left behind if all of the employees were moved out of Anthem. And it's pretty clear. You could see that for the Board of Ed actives, it's about $968,000, and for the retirees, both pre-65 and post-65, it's about $124,000. The other add-on, which is the estimated processing fee, is that we've been informed that it costs about 20% to process the IBNR claims, and that's why that additional amount of money is added in to the cost of moving away from the Anthem plan. So in total, if the superintendent were to move everyone out of Anthem, the IBNR would be approximately gross $1,311,000. Okay. And now, if you could bear with me just for a couple of more minutes, I just want to give you the background so you can at least see the parts to this, and then hopefully it will clarify this stuff a little bit better. So again, on this handout, which is this spreadsheet that we developed, the top half, section 1, are the gross expenses, okay? And you can see the number of lives. There's 603 active, 28 are pre-retirees, pre-65 retirees, and 42 are post-65 retirees. The Anthem, total Anthem costs are listed there. Next to the total Anthem costs are the corresponding state partnership costs for those programs and the variances from one to the other. The one thing that's really significant, and I think that I overlooked it last year when we did our analysis, is because there are a significant number of Board of Ed employees in the health savings account based on their union contract, the city's obligated to pay either $1,000 or $2,000 towards their HSA deductible. The combined cost of that is $731,000. It's listed under Roman numeral 1B. So in addition to the rates that are being paid to Anthem for the coverages, there is the additional contribution that the board makes of $731,000 for purposes of meeting a portion of the deductibles that they have with the HSA. So if you look across to the variance, the actual rate-to-rate savings is about $940,000, or about 6.68%. But the total actual savings, because you would not have to pay the $731,000 contribution for the HSA, brings the savings, the gross savings, to $1,671,000. And then correspondingly, you see what the cost is if the pre-65 retirees are moved, and also what the cost is of the post-65 retirees. And that's really astronomical, and it was pretty much in line with what we saw last year. I think last year it was in the high 70% range, but you could see that for those 42 people, it's another $629,000 in coverage. So what it does is brings down this total savings when you combine all three of these to about $1,022,000. Then this is just gross costs, remember. Then what we did was we went down one more level and we introduced the effect of the employee contributions on this, because we wanted you to see it gross and net. And you can see that it does change the cost a little bit, and it certainly brings down the exposure for the post-65 retirees. When you factor in the employee contributions, the savings is a little bit more. It's $1,108,350. But one of the things that I do want to mention is that when I calculated the employee contributions for joining the state partnership plan, I did it on a proportional basis to what it was with the Anthem plan, because there was no way I could actually go in and identify each coverage and what the contribution would be. So this number might be a little bit conservative. Maybe it's a little bit too liberal, but the bottom line is that it has the contribution for the post-65 retirees proportionately has a significant effect on bringing down the impact of that cost increase. So on a net basis, we're looking at a savings of $1,022,000. I'm sorry. On a gross basis, we're looking at a savings of about $1,022,000, and on a net basis, about $1,108,000. And then the other thing we have to keep in mind is the fact that there is the IBNR that's outstanding that also has to be addressed. So I think as far as the numbers go, that's pretty much where I am, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I don't know if you want to hear from the superintendent first, and then we'll take all the questions then.
Yes, please. Have Neil.
Well, you know what, I don't know if Floyd is on the line, but if Floyd, you wanted to just, two items that I think need to be addressed. Number one, the retirees, obviously, but number two, we actually had a discussion, between Michael, myself, and Matt last week. One of the things that, we kind of were throwing around was the idea of, either raising or lowering the cost contributions and not affecting the amount taken out of the check as far as the plan. But I'm going to assume if we were to do anything, that would be part of the collective bargaining process. Is that correct?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why we would, I could understand why the unions would want to use this as an opportunity to negotiate down the cost share, but I don't see the rationale for it. They're getting a better plan, and I'd be inclined to leave the percentages exactly where they are.
Because we want to collect the same amount of money, Floyd, that we've been collecting via the copay to offset some of our medical costs.
Oh, so to bump it up?
Yeah. Again, we just talked about that last week, and
Okay.
you and
Yeah, that's, if we're going to increase it, that would certainly require bargaining.
What Neil is saying, if you look at the summary that we did, which was the third page of this, just to give you an example, if you look under Roman numeral 2 net expenses, it shows that this is under A.
Under A.
That the active employees are contributing $2,686,859. Okay, if they move to the partnership, because it's a percentage basis of what their contribution is, since the rates go down, the contribution goes down to $2,383,391. And what Neil was proposing is, at least in the first year, could they keep that amount constant, that $2,686,000, and that way he would have additional dollars to work with to help him pay down the IBNR.
Okay.
And it looks as if you're still going to have enough, if you did everything, to cover the IBNR in the first year of the operating budget, and then you would also feel, from years on, you would then get that benefit. But that's something to think about. What is the percentage of the contribution that the employees pay? Do you know the percentage?
It
I'd say
depends on-
it averages 20%.
Yeah.
20%? Okay. Thank you.
Low, but they only have single benefits.
Well, that's certainly
So,
something we can talk about, Neil.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I don't know, again, if you wanted to just address the, any issues that you see or that we, would potentially run into as far as the retirees.
Yeah, we looked at that initially. We haven't done the deepest dive or put people on notice, but I've been running into this issue, frankly, in other communities having nothing to do with the state partnership plan, but transitioning to a Medicare Advantage plan. And so I've looked at it in that context. The legal requirement under the law is that the plans are substantially commensurate. And without looking at all the details of all of these plans, generally speaking, we're finding the Medicare Advantage plan is substantially commensurate. So I'm reasonably optimistic at this point in time we can make that change. There'll certainly be some pushback. People, particularly, the post-65 community tends to get very anxious when there's any change in their health insurance. So it's really a question of convincing them that it really is overall a better plan and a way to go. But legally, at least my initial read is that we'd be in a pretty sound position in making that move.
Lloyd, this is Michael, and I just wanted to make one distinction, and that is we have two different, as you know, post-65 groups. We have the Zenith group who are already in Medicare.
Right.
But then we have the other group that's in Anthem that has far different coverage than the Zenith group who are in the Medicare. And so when we last looked at this, and Chris Hodgson, your partner, did the legal work for the city, he made the point of the distinction there, even though they're both over 65, they're treated very differently because of where their coverages are.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, this is Seth. The Anthem population are post-65 retirees that are not Medicare eligible because they never paid in.
Thank you. That's another good point.
Yep.
I do have one question on the post 65, if you're looking at your table, on Roman numeral number 2, section C. And if you look at the post 65 non-Medicare, the retiree contribution is doubling and under the partnership. And that area kind of would concern me because I'm thinking these folks are the ones that are on fixed income.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, that's the one I qualified. There was no easy way, Kim, to go in and identify the contributions by each of them percentage-wise across, because they're retirees and they spread a number of years, their contributions vary depending upon when they retired. So I can't apply a 20% or an 18%. You have to go in actually to each one of the 42, see when they retired, and then identify what percentage they're paying of their premium. Then the other challenge is they're all paying different premiums because they all retired at a different time.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, so while it looks like a small amount of people, it is, but there could be 42 different calculations for each of these. So what I did was I just used the relationship between the retiree contribution under the actives, the $464,649 as a percentage of the gross cost, and used that same percentage.
Okay.
And you could see that the variance in both cases came out to 82.93. So the formula worked, but whether or not in reality, you're right, you can take that contribution and increase it by that amount of money is another issue that would have to be, negotiated.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. I know when we went through this with the city, there were a fair amount of those post-65 non-Medicare retirees that had individually negotiated contracts, and most of them had caps in the dollar amount that they were that they could be charged.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So that part's going to take a little bit of work and maybe some real good finessing from Lloyd.
Okay.
Not to say it can't be done.
Right. Would this group recommend not moving over? I thought that is what you had done on the city side. Those folks that in the calculation are actually costing us money to move, but is it that you need the population of the blended to make it right? On page 1, where you're saying that it's going to cost us to move the 70 retirees, pre-65 retirees. Should we just leave those behind and find out what the cost is? I think that's what you're planning to do, correct?
Yeah, I think that it's really going to be very telling once Seth is able to get us those comparative costs, and it's also going to address the city retirees too, because it's something that there might be some economies of scale if we all do the same thing, whether we stay or go. But
Can
yes,
you
you're right.
Can you remind me of how many have not moved for the city? Does anybody have that number?
Yeah, it's about 109 of the city, and then there are about 24 firefighters.
Okay.
Yeah, and the complexity that we'll be looking at is, because the plan is self-funded, and we've talked about this before. Really, when we talk about costs, it works in total, but when you start breaking down the groups, you have to start looking at, what their actual costs are in the plan, not just the rates. So this comparison works really well if we're looking at the group as a whole. But as we start breaking down populations, we just have to break out the claims and show everybody, what does this group of people have for claims and fixed costs, and how does that compare to what the state rates would be, just so
Sure.
we can get an idea of, kind of where everything's landing.
All right. Any more commentary before I ask the members to respond?
Kim,
If they
I
have
had
questions.
just one, this is Neil Cavallaro.
Yes,
I had
Neil.
just one thing that came up last week, which threw me off, and I'm not sure how it would affect us when Michael, Matt, and I sat down. When I looked at the number of active employees who are enrolled at health benefits, I saw 603, and I turned to Matt, and my first reaction was that has to be a mistake. We have almost 600 teachers. Is that just one group? And we have enough people right now that waive health benefits for whatever reason. Their spouse has benefits through their employer. We do have some married couples here. One potential concern that I have is if the state partnership plan turns out to be a richer, less expensive plan, we could potentially see not 300, which is the number of full-time employees we have, but we could see the number of people we're insuring substantially increase.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just something that I noticed again last week. It never dawned on me that many people waive their benefits. Don't forget too, we hire a lot of young teachers who are still on the plans of their parents until they're 26. So again, it's a factor.
Yep.
This is Tom Hamilton. I have a question
Hi, Tom.
about the. My question is the firefighters didn't move because of the complexity of the HSA contribution and the fact that people had already met deductibles and so on and so forth. And does the Board of Ed have the same issue moving? I guess the current plan that you have is a high deductible plan. I don't know what the plan year is. Is it a July 1 plan year or a January 1 plan year? And I'm
Tom,
just trying to get
Neil again. It is a July 1 plan. In fact, I sat down with all of the bargaining members to just tell them, this was back in October, where we were after we had time to review the Siegel analysis and talk about some of the benefits, and especially the teachers union. They raised that issue that they would rather not move during the year for the exact reasons that both Michael and you mentioned. Hitting deductibles, anticipating the $1,000 being put into their HSA, and some of the other issues that come up with that. So that was, they made it clear, the unions, and I don't disagree with them, that it makes more sense to move July 1st.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's what I was afraid of, is that trying to move for January obviously would not be feasible, but I wasn't sure what your plan year was, so.
Yeah, Tom, we actually thought about it because we thought some of the savings by not having to make that deposit mid-year could help us enter early, but after sitting down with the unions, it just didn't seem like it was the right thing to do or a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's Floyd here. I was also hopeful we could use that to offset some of the IBNR, but it just wasn't practical.
I understand.
This is Bob White. I've got
Yep.
a timing question. If you're wanting to move at least some chunk of folks over July 1, what is the timing on the decision on the retirees? I know you've got more information to get and more analysis to do, but are you going to have to make that decision before July 1 on the retirees, or what? And if so, do you think you're going to be in a position to do that?
This is Michael, Bob, and I don't think that's going to be a problem because none of those groups are in the HSA plan, and that was really the only impediment. The impediment now is just simply going to be the ability to negotiate it with them, but that hurdle of the HSA and not moving in mid-year doesn't apply to those groups at all. So at least we're not.
No, I meant okay, so that includes the retirees. What I meant is it looks pretty good that you can move the actives, assuming you go through the bargaining, but you are uncertain, as I understand it, you are uncertain of whether it makes sense to move the retirees. My question was, is that a decision on the retirees that you're going to have to make before July 1?
I don't mean to speak for everybody else. I think we'd like to be able to make it very soon so that if there's going to be a transition of everyone, it happen at the same time. It'd be a lot cleaner. Yep. But I guess a lot will depend on what happens over the next couple of months in terms of the cost information that Anthem provides us and the information that Floyd provides in terms of how quickly we can resolve whatever differences we might have with the various bargaining units, because there are a lot of bargaining units involved. Ideally, we'd like to see everybody move. I can't speak for the superintendent, but that would be the easiest way to do this.
Yeah, this is Neil. Would certainly be the easiest. We do have some time. Both Floyd and I spoke to Bernie Slowick, once we received all the information and said, hey, what are the next steps? And he said there's really nothing that we can do until around February 1st when we would fill out the application. So we've got a couple of months to work it out.
Okay, one follow-up question on the city side. Is it anticipated that the firefighters will be coming over July 1?
No. The active firefighters? No, because they were negotiating to join the HSA plan and to transition on July 1st. But if you remember, the contract had been rejected when it was presented to MARB, and so they are going to continue to stay in the Anthem HSA plan.
Okay. And for the others that did come over, is the city is handling the IBNR, and that's in the 5-year budget and the 5-year plan.
You want to handle that one, Frank? The IBNR, how we're handling that. I think there's discussions ongoing between the finance director and OPM, so I'll defer to Frank on that.
Yeah, from the city side, the city absorbed all the IBNR costs. I have detail as to the monthly impacts. That has been forwarded, but as of this point, at the end of October, I believe the number was $532,000-ish. I have a breakdown by the individual groups that tell me whether it's WPCA, which unions are involved, but that's where we stand now as of this point.
And you will recall that when it came time for year end, this discussion the secretary brought up at the last meeting when it came to fund balance and where the balance was, and the city had met their goals on their 5-year plan and still budgeted for their IBNR. So they're moving forward as planned and did not need any additional assistance in that area and able to maintain their fund balance levels. So we're looking at the Board of Ed. If the Board of Ed is also looks based on their savings, that they would be able to handle the costs of the IBNR. But of course, we're not here to we're here to monitor it and make sure that we keep a close eye on this as we move forward.
Yeah, Kim, this is Neil again, and I think you and I had some preliminary discussion on that. And
Right.
If we're looking at a break even for the first year, or even a little bit of a call for a long-range savings, that's certainly something, we would look at, take seriously, and move forward with.
Yep.
To me, it's a no-brainer to give our employees a little bit more, And again, to break even the first year or even cost us a little money if there's savings down the road makes a lot of sense.
And Kim, this is Matt, and that's what Neil said earlier. I think being able to handle this within our budget, the importance of keeping the employee contribution the same as it was the prior year is will pretty much make or break the ability for us to afford the IBNR within our operating budget.
Yeah, but that's the challenge,
Yeah.
because that's
Right.
part of collective bargaining that we'd have to.
This is
Right.
Michael, and, the other thing that, we've seen is a very positive trend in the, Board of Education under expending their medical benefit line item each of the last 3 years. And not to put a monkey wrench in this for Neil, but there is that possibility that, again, they have a really good claims year, and that some of this additional money that they'll need could come from the savings that might be generated if they continue to have good claims experience too. So that possibly could get factored into all of this.
You're right. I do remember us looking at that. Thank you, Michael, for reminding me. Any other questions from the members on this?
Yes, this is Christine Shaw. Kim, you had mentioned that, our general posture will be to keep an eye on this. I do note that in the summary, there was reference made to additional analysis. If the option pursued where the Board of Ed actives remain in the self-insured plan. I'm sorry, I just lost the portion of the report where it referenced that. But is that something that we expect for additional analysis to complete this picture?
I know that Michael had done some extensive analysis to come up with, and Julian, to come up with the summary that we already have. Is there something in particular that you're looking for, Christine? Did I lose you, Christine?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the summary, the meeting materials made reference to additional analysis of the self-insured option. And I'm sorry, I just lost it. It was on the, I think, at the very last page. And I wasn't sure if that was something we should continue to expect to receive.
Hi, it's Matt again. I think the additional analysis spoke to the cost information that Anthem would provide us if the retirees would stay self-insured within Anthem and not move over to the state partnership plan.
Right.
The actives are pretty much, what you see
Okay.
is what you would continue to see if we continue to do the analysis. The moving target are the two groups of retirees, the pre-65 and post-65, that are with Anthem. And that's where the further analysis is going to have to be conducted.
On those
Okay.
70 employees
Yes, that's right.
and the actual cost.
Yes.
Okay. But go ahead, Christine, sorry.
So yeah, no, I was just wondering, what the time frame was for that additional analysis.
We're hoping, this is Michael, and Seth, who is our benefits consultant, has been working with Anthem, and I told him that we would need it before the next MARB subcommittee meeting, and I know he's been working to get it, and I guess I'll have to defer to him to see how that's coming and how quickly we might see it, because that's really the key information that we need to move this along.
And I would say, again, based on my conversation with Bernie Slowick, we've got maybe mid-February would be first latest to decide whether or not we're moving.
So we tentative West Haven subcommittee on January the 26th. Seth, is it realistic to see that we could have that on the agenda for the January meeting? And the following meeting after that is March 23rd. But Superintendent, you said a decision needs to be made by when in March?
I would say no
March
later
1st?
than March 1st. Yeah,
Okay.
Because we've got to get the application filled out, and then there's obviously an education component, and
Right.
again, Floyd's going to have to do some work with especially with the retirees, and that's going to be a challenge informing all of them, especially with all of the different plans that are out there.
So I would suggest that we do not want to wait till the February 23rd meeting. I think that that will put you right down to the wire with those decisions. Is it realistic to think that we will be able to get this information by January 26th meeting?
I would say so. We were pushing hard for, to have the information for this meeting, and, while they couldn't accommodate, I assume they're still, trying to push for as fast as possible, and I'll continue to push them that way as well. The hiccup was their systems couldn't handle doing 2 ratings at once, so they had to finalize the renewal as is, considering the whole population first, and then they have to go in after that and do the separate rating, which is just for the retirees.
Okay, we will need to have the information to be able to flesh it out ahead of time. So I'm guessing that we would, need it at least a week and a half prior to that, which is putting us around January 15th. That's just before the holiday. Otherwise, after that, would be the 19th, and that would be short days to turn that around. But do we have any other questions from the members? I don't want to leave anybody out.
I had one last question.
Yes, Tom.
The State Controller's Office has implemented, I guess, regional county rates or county adjustment factors. Has that been taken into account? I know it's being phased in over 2 years, this year and next year. So, and I don't know what New Haven County's adjustment factor is, whether it's going up or it could even be going down. But has that been taken into account in the analysis?
This is Michael. Yes, it was taken into account in this analysis for this fiscal year, but again, we don't have rates for next year yet, Tom, and so I don't know how much of an impact that is going to have on our rate relative to the other rates in the region. But when we looked across the regions, we were, I think, somewhere sort of in the middle of the rates. But yeah, the rate with that adjustment was taken into consideration when we did this.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. If we have no other questions, we're ready to move on. Unless the superintendent or Michael have anything else that they would like in closing.
No, again, we spent a lot of time on this, and Michael has been very helpful, as has Seth and Matt, and we should be ready to go, pending those questions, to make a final decision one way or the other.
Superintendent, I want to thank you for all and everybody who was involved for all your hard work in this, and this is really good news to hear, and would be, it sounds to me, to be very beneficial for the Board of Ed. So could make for a happy new year. So thank you for all that hard work.
Thank you, Kim.
All right. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the corrective action plan for fiscal year 2019. Frank, can we have an update in that area? I did not get a new report, so I really wish that even if it doesn't change, that if I got a new report, you could say no changes. But tell me where we're at.
I apologize for that. I was tied up
Okay.
trying to get other things in, and that's entirely my fault. There haven't been any changes, at least on the city side. I know we had some open items around bidding documentation. I have spoken to the mayor, and one thing that I intend to do for the fiscal 22 budget is to include a clerical person within the finance staff. That individual will assist with the grants department in maintaining records there. The individual will assist with the purchasing person and the purchasing process to maintain all the bids and the documents, with the expectation that once we have somebody in place and is focused on it, I can cross this off the list and we can move forward with at least the bid documentation side of the note. The pension plans and alternative investments, we're still in the process of...
On hold.
Yeah, it's on hold. We're in the process of
Yep.
writing an RFP. That has not gone out yet. I'm waiting to see what comes back, if anything gets written up on Allingtown with their capital assets. They have a new chief in place now. So my intent is to reach out to him and have a conversation directly. We were promised that this year we would have a full physical inventory done by the fire department. I don't believe that happened because they indicated that it would happen in the current year. So that was, disappointing. So I want to make sure that he's on board and understands that these items are important and they can't be just ignored.
Correct.
I think the only other item that was open is on the Board of Ed side. That was the training.
Yeah, the student activity accounts, I expect that to remain open. I spoke with the auditors about it. They said they wanted to do their review of the accounts, and then they will give me a recommendation as soon as the audit is completed, and we will implement that going forward.
Okay, so if this is going to definitely remain an open item into the new year. Okay. A couple of things for the next meeting or an email to me beforehand. Frank, on the RFPs, if we could get a time set of when you plan to do these RFPs yourself, or I'm sorry, corporate counsel, not that it's in the works. Just give me a date and tell me that our goal is to get it done by February, March. I just want a date on here. Okay.
Yep.
That would be.
I'll circle back.
Thank you.
Back with corporate.
That would be helpful. And the other thing is the status of the purchasing position. So I know that you had budget funding for that to start January 1. That's around the corner. Have we posted that position yet?
We have an individual all ready to go.
Okay.
He is currently the payroll person, so a lot of his time is being spent with the ADP project.
Okay.
But we've had a conversation, and I think what we're going to try to do is now that the project, most of the data and they're in the testing phase now, and I can talk about that at the ADP bullet, but they're in the testing phase now, so my expectation is once we're comfortable, I can start phasing him off of that project and splitting his time between purchasing and the ADP implementation. But we are ready to go, and I have a list of things for him to try to fix within his first 30, 60 days.
Sure. Very good. That's it for my questions on this. Does any of the members have any questions concerning the corrective action plans verbal update? Okay. Can we then move on to the next agenda item 5, and let's get a status update of fiscal year 2020 close and the audit process, please.
Sure. So we have a call scheduled this afternoon with the auditors. I believe there's only one outstanding item. It's coming from Milliman.
I just got it.
Did you get it?
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, no, they've been contacting me because we're doing our absolute best here because we want to get this audit on time. So I've been rattling pages, as Frank has as well. We have a piece of information from Milliman that they promised and we didn't get, and they promised again. So I wrote to Milliman and I contacted Jen Castellano, which is the supervisor. On top of it, I told them we expect that information today. That's one of the last items, but the other items have to do with the Board of Education. The auditor wrote to me this morning. One is awaiting the pupil services to update SEECG report by end of week on Monday, 12/14. Last conversation with Matt Cavaliero was 12/10. So, Matt, do you know when this information is going to be given to the auditor?
As soon as this meeting is over. I just didn't get it.
Very good. That's what I wanted to hear, so that's good news.
I didn't get a chance to review it and send it off before the meeting started, so it's ready to go.
Reconciliation.
Same thing.
same thing
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Okay, so
absolutely.
as long as we keep bothering Milliman, if I gotta write to them every hour, to get that piece of information, because, we've been trying, it's not like, 'cause how many times have you tried, Frank? Frank's tried several times, that's why I jumped on board with it, because it's very, very important to the city of West Haven to get this audit on time.
You know, spoke
I
to the
agree.
auditor- I'm sorry, go ahead, Kim.
No, I let you finish and then I'll speak. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that I spoke to the auditors, and we're of the same opinion that West Haven is still suffering the residual effects of all their prior offenses. So third-party data that comes in for the audit typically has always been requested late. Audits
Yep.
have never been on time, so we've been put on the bottom of the list.
Understand.
So what Bloom Shapiro and I are going to do for the fiscal 21 audit, we will jointly send out requests to these organizations and let them know that West Haven requires this information on time as they do with other towns.
Okay, so a couple of things have to happen. What is the drop dead date that you're going to request an extension? My biggest concern for 12/31, if you're asking for an extension, I would suggest, I'm just saying because you're at the mercy of third-party people, that you don't wait until just prior to Christmas Eve, because a lot of times people take time off during that time. I can make you aware that the people that grant that at OPM in my finance area, we are down to a staff of 1, and we'll be taking time off during that. So I'd rather have it completed ahead of time. So my thoughts are is if what's going to be your drop dead date?
Well, we have the.
Do you have draft financials?
Well, we have the extension paperwork all ready to go.
Okay, okay.
We've had a conversation with Bloom last week. They have told us that if we can get this information into them, they are cranking things out to get the draft information. I will work on the management letter so that we can drop the charts and et cetera into that. So at this point, and as I said, we have another call scheduled with them this afternoon. But at this point, we are still pushing for a 12/31, and I'm waiting to hear back from Milliman again. As I said, they promised it to me yesterday. They that it's their top priority. They're going to get it to me today. Well, I'll see what they do. And then I can circle back with you, Kim, after our call with Bloom this afternoon.
No problem. Do you have draft financials that you've been able to see with those items that are still missing?
I have not seen any draft information yet.
Maybe they can share it with you so that you can get a preliminary review prior to getting the final draft and then have to
Sure.
bless it and turn it around. How about management findings?
We haven't seen anything yet. As I said, I'm trying to work up the management letter portion of that.
You're talking prior year
Yes.
responses. Okay.
We haven't
So
seen I haven't seen anything yet for the current year.
Okay. So when you're in the call today, can you find out about when you will anticipate seeing findings and draft financials?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Good luck with all of that. And thank you for everybody reacting and your hard push. This is good. Any questions from the board members on the fiscal year close process? Okay, let's move on to item number 6, an update on the ADP implementation, please.
Great. So, as I mentioned previously, we pushed off the launch to February 1st. We are in the process of doing data testing, and I know both Aaron on the Board of Ed side and Doug on the city side have been working diligently with them. The new person that we brought in on a temporary basis has been working to help do the rollout and the informational push into the employee base. I think that's going well. We do have multi-calls each week. As of right now, I'm expecting to get an update from them with the grid this afternoon. Is it this afternoon or tomorrow we have the call with? Tomorrow. We should get an updated grid from them as to where they think we are. But I think the testing process is going well. As I said, we did have some gaps in the data. That's being worked through. And right now they're flushing through verifying overtime calculations and shift differential calculations and all of the nitty-gritty that's related. They are putting together, based off of test scripts, they're running various scenarios for different departments that have been, for lack of a better term, problem children in the past. You know, complexities around the pay components. We were supposed to go and meet with the police department yesterday to see how they get the data, since they will not be punching a clock on day one. ADP has provided us with a mechanism for an upload into their system. So we were going to meet with them yesterday, but there was a concern that there was a possible exposure within the police department. So Doug and I decided not to venture over there until we got results of whatever test they were going to.
Definitely.
But they know that we're working with them. The goal is for us to have a template pulled together. I'd like to see how they get the information to be able to build various lookups, et cetera, to map their employee numbers with the corresponding ADP identification numbers, so things don't have to be repunched into the file. I'm hoping for a direct download from their time system into whatever mechanism of Excel file that we could use for ADP.
Is this going on, or this is just temporary transition?
It's a temporary transition.
Okay.
The goal is to get fire and police on a clock.
Okay.
But that won't happen on day one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and just so you know, Kim, Lee Tiernan, we have to, even with the launch, it's more than just a goal. It's imperative that we get it perfect, because there are people at different pay levels, and the level of stress and anxiety, especially during COVID, on a mistake or a lack of a check is not acceptable. So we really want to be certain, we want to be certain when we do it. I will be working with public safety. We're going to negotiate and talk about how we get them into the system, but that negotiation is not going to delay the implementation. We're also working with a partnership with a local financial institution to try to numb this down a little further, where we could eliminate paper checks and do some other efficiencies once ADP system is in. So I'm not concerned about the delay, only because I think it really is a product of people trying to get perfection, not a product of people not working. And I'm happy with the team, especially our new individual.
Very good. So, Frank, one other question. Are you planning to, at least, even if it's not fire and police, that when you're in the test phase, somebody will use those clocks, pretend that they are running all of those shifts, and actually test it before you go live with a clock?
Yes.
In their type of scenario?
Yes, we are going to be doing that.
I mean, it would be great if you could have somebody, from fire or police, help you and want to, and, want to get out of the paper. But if they don't want you to do that, then I would suggest that you have a point person that does do that paperwork, just as if you're just moving from a paper situation to the time clock situation, and test those scenarios.
Yes, again, Kim, Lee Tiernan, our new
the
person that we brought on got the bad news that she is indeed the point person for that task that was delivered to a few weeks ago.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Sounds to me like you're moving.
Yep, and I don't know. Well, I would imagine that the rest of the subcommittee doesn't know, but but we do have interviews scheduled for this afternoon and tomorrow to fill that HR benefit position full-time. So once that position is filled full-time, we should hopefully be seamless in moving forward and getting this project brought to completion.
You're still going to keep the temporary person on, right, till we get this project completed? Because the new person's going to have a lot of things to learn.
A learning curve,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
And pursuant to that, first of all, thank you, Kim, for participating in that process. And could you give me a phone
You're
audience
welcome.
after this meeting for 2 minutes concerning
Sure.
those interviews? Thanks. I'll
Yes,
call you right
definitely.
after the meeting's over.
Okay, sounds good. If you want to stay on the line, Lee, we can get the recording stopped and we can just continue to use this line.
Even better. Very good.
Okay, perfect. Any questions on the ADP project from the members? All right, then last item on the agenda is to adjourn. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Christine Shaw.
Whoops. Who's first, please? Motion.
Tom Hamilton.
Thank you, Tom. How about the second? Thank you, Steve. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. We will see you in the new year. I wish you all happy holidays and stay safe and hope that everybody stays healthy. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you all.
Thank you as well.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Take care, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.